Good morning, Buckeye fans. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 on Thursday, January 29th, 2015. I am Dave Biddle, and I am honored to be joined by former Ohio State All-American running back and NFL first-round draft pick, and all-around good human being, Beanie Wells. Beanie, welcome into the show. Thank you for your time, and tell the listeners what you're up to these days. I know you're a full-fledged media member now.
I am, Dave. I appreciate you having me, first and foremost. I crossed over, and I joined your world. I'm excited to be a part of it. I did some stuff with Fox Sports, some stuff with Campus Insiders, some stuff with a few radio stations in Cleveland and in Columbus and in Akron. So doing a little bit of everything. I'm enjoying it, though. You're
perfect for it. You've got the knowledge from your football days. You have the stardom from your football days, and you've got the personality for media. So you're going to be a star in media just like you were in football. Beanie, we're 6 days away from National Signing Day, and I want to get your perspective on something. You were a big-time recruit, of course, #1 running back prospect in the country in the 2006 class coming out of Akron-Garfield. And you were no frills, my man, when it came time to make your decision. Not only did you pick Ohio State, but you did it midway through your junior year of high school. It was like a year before signing day. Talk about that. And were you ever tempted to wait it out and have a signing day press conference or announce on TV at one of the high school all-star games?
It was one of those things that, I had came down to Ohio State for a basketball game. I want to say they were playing in Michigan. And I'm walking in that stadium, and all of a sudden I look to my right, and I hear the student section howling, "We want Beanie, we want Beanie." And at that moment, I was sold. It was something I had never experienced before, coming from a city school in Akron. And to have probably about 5,000 students hollering your name, I was completely sold. In the atmosphere in Columbus, it felt like at home. I was 2 hours away. My parents would come see me play. It was one of those things where, it was so much excitement going on. I was just wrapped up in Columbus, and I'm glad I made the right decision. But there is a small story in between there. I committed early, as you mentioned, but I took a trip out to USC my senior year. And, Pete Carroll somehow or another swayed me. And I never officially decommitted from Ohio State, but I committed to USC while I was out there on that visit. So I called my mom. I called my dad. I told her what I was doing. My mom was livid. My dad was like, "There's no way." So by the time I got off the plane, I was decommitted from USC and back committed to Ohio State.
I had no idea about that. Have you ever told that story before? I imagine you have, but is that story out there?
It's not out there. A lot of people don't. There's a very small selection of people know it. But, yeah, it was definitely a crazy moment. I went out there, and I went to L.A., and, I was hanging out with Reggie Bush, hanging out with Matt Leinart, and Dwayne Jarrett, who was their star receiver at the time, was my host. And, he showed me everything Hollywood had to offer and how these guys were living like big movie stars out there, and I was definitely swayed at the moment. But I'm glad I didn't go there, and I made the right choice for sure.
Well, I remember the Dwayne Jarrett recruitment very well, too. He almost committed to Ohio State. In fact, there was rumors he did commit to Ohio State, and then he picked USC at the last moment. And I can see how an Ohio guy, hey, I was born and raised in Ohio, too, man. You go up to L.A., it's nice warm weather out there, as you said, the whole movie star thing. I can see how that would be tempting, but I'm glad for Buckeye Nation that you ended up staying home. So I got to ask you, what do you think of the guys? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so you and me both.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure you would have flourished at USC, no doubt, but I'm just happy you stayed home. What do you think of the guys, Beanie, the recruits who waited out, play the hat dance, do the press conferences on TV, and really make a big spectacle out of it? Do you say, hey, good for them, they're having fun, or do you say, hey, too much drama?
I guess it depends. In some cases, good for them. They're having fun. They're getting an opportunity to be sought after. And many of those guys will never get that opportunity again. So it is a memorable moment. It is fun and games. But, some deals you got that wait until after signing day. That's when I say, come on now. Enough with all the drama. Make your decision. It's not like you're going into the draft or anything like that. You're picking a university. But, those guys that wait to the last minute, I'm happy for them. I just don't like the the big showdown when guys wait till after official signing day.
Ezekiel Elliott, wow, is he impressive. And you know something about being an impressive running back. What makes him so special, Beanie?
Man, everything. He's a beast. Just watching him week in and week out, just kind of develop and get more comfortable being back there, being a starting running back and comfortable with the offense. He's probably the most improved player, not just running back, in college football from week one to where we were when they won the national championship. He runs with that forward lean that a lot of backs don't run with. He's always going forward, always has his shoulders square through the line of scrimmage, churning yards, and that's what you want out of a running back. And I'm so glad that we have him on our team. And I'm so glad, that Urban decided to, hey, we're going to go with this guy. We're going to pick Ezekiel Elliott as our number one back midway through the season, and we're going to ride him out. Early on, I was kind of concerned because, Ohio State wasn't traditionally a team that ran multiple running backs. We were doing that early on in the season, and it had me a bit worried. But I'm glad we got back on track with Ezekiel.
Wow, did he turn it on, and even started the year off and played the whole season with the fractured bone in his wrist, where he only could carry the ball in his right hand. He just kept getting better, and the offensive line deserves a ton of credit. But I wanted to get one great Ohio State running back's perspective on another great Ohio State running back. And then the million-dollar question, Beanie, the quarterback quandary of 2015. It's a great problem to have for the Buckeyes. Talk about hashtag Buckeye Nation problems. What an embarrassment of riches at the quarterback position. Give me your educated opinion here. What do you think will happen? Who is going to be the starter at quarterback? Might we see a two-quarterback system? Just give me your forecast, Beanie.
I think we will. I think there's a big possibility of us seeing a two-quarterback system. You have J.T. Barrett, who is a great quarterback. He had a phenomenal year. He's really, really good at reading through defenses and going through progressions. And then you go to Cardale, who has a cannon of an arm, probably the best arm in college football, and who is coming off of, the biggest postseason in college football history, winning a Big Ten championship, the Super Bowl, and then the national championship. And then you got to take into account that Cardale will get the opportunity to go into the spring as the number one quarterback. So it'll be interesting to see which way it plays out. And then you can't forget about Braxton Miller. Does he switch positions? Do I foresee it? I think so. I think when you have quarterbacks like J.T. Barrett and Cardale Jones, who I think have better arms, but do not have Braxton's athletic ability, I think the ability for him to transfer to another position and be successful is there.
How tough will that be? Let's assume that he does switch positions, H-back, wide receiver, whatever it might be. Let's assume his shoulder is healthy, which is, I know that's a monumental assumption, but for the sake of argument, how tough will that be if you're being a quarterback your whole life to then switch to being an H-back or a wide out? I mean, that's obviously not going to be easy, but how tough do you think that'll be for Braxton?
I think it'll be really tough. When I think of quarterbacks, I think of prideful guys that are used to, controlling the football team, controlling the ball, being in the limelight. So I could definitely see it being an issue for Braxton and him making an adjustment. But if he thinks about it in the sense that I'm looking out for my future and I'm thinking long term, I'm thinking NFL, I think that would be the best case scenario for him to move and, be that H-backer, be that wide receiver, that slot guy, that guy you can get the ball to in space, because he has a ton of athletic ability, a ton of speed. And you get a guy like Braxton in space, he can still do some of the same things he did with the ball in his hands at the quarterback position, at the wide receiver or H-back position.
Last thing before I get you out of here, Beanie, I want to get your best recollection from your Ohio State career, your fantastic 3-year Buckeye career. I imagine something about your sophomore year when you rushed for 1,609 yards, over 200 yards versus Michigan. You led the team to the national title game that season. What is your best recollection from your Ohio State career?
My best recollection from my career, it's funny. It had nothing to do with actually playing in the game. It was the Ohio State-Michigan game my freshman year. And, I went out the tunnel, and I look to the right, and I see Michigan's sideline. I see Derek Jeter, and I see Madonna. And it was like a mind-blowing, starstruck moment right there. So it had nothing to do with the game. No jitters about playing in the game. It's about running out of that tunnel and you seeing two huge, bigger-than-life celebrities on the sideline. At that moment, I was like, wow, this rivalry here is something special to have those two on the sideline there.
What a game to bring up. The only 1-versus-2 game in the history of the best rivalry in sports, and you guys won it. And you had a huge play in that game with that long touchdown run. That's got to be another great memory for you, that long touchdown run. You also had a long touchdown run in the national championship game the following season. You had a lot of long touchdown runs, but that one in that as a true freshman, and the 1 versus 2 game, and the Madonna, you're breaking the hearts of Michigan fans, Madonna and Derek Jeter. That had to feel really good.
Oh man, it felt great, to go out and do that. And it was kind of a signature moment for me in my career, my young career at the time, to go out and make a big play versus Michigan. I roomed with Troy Smith that game, or the night before that game, and all he kept saying is, if you make a play in this game and we win the game, you're immortalized in Buckeye history forever. And, that came to pass. It came true. So, I couldn't be more grateful for that moment.
Yep, 3-0 against Michigan, and you were a huge part of all those wins against Michigan during your career. 2 national championship game appearances. That darn Urban Meyer in 2006, man. Something about that guy. He made up for it, I guess, this year with winning a national championship. Are you like me? That at one point, did you not like Urban Meyer at one point? Because at one point, I didn't like Urban Meyer.
I haven't forgiven him until they just went out and won that national championship. So now all's forgiven, all's well. I'm Team Urban at this point.
Exactly. As soon as I learned he was probably going to be Ohio State's coach, I immediately did a 180 and loved him. But yeah, he definitely has now settled the score. He's made up for that one he took from us. But Beanie Wells, the man, the truth, the legend. I appreciate you so much joining us here on the Bucknuts Morning 5. Thank you so much, and glad you're back in Columbus. I apologize that you've made the poor choice to join the media, but you're going to do what you got to do. I guess. No, I'm kidding. You're going to be a star in the media, like I said, and thank you again, Beanie, for joining us here on the show.
I appreciate it. I probably run into you at the airport more than any place. I see you there all the time.
Exactly. Right at the Southwest Hub in front of Chili's is where we always run into each other. I like it.
Exactly. Well, have a good one. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Thanks again to our special guest, Beanie Wells. Thanks to all the listeners out there. I hope you have a great day. Take it away, best damn band in the land.